Tim's back again this week and we discussed auctions. Tim, can you briefly explain to us how someone goes about auctioning their home?
I suppose you should declare a bit of a conflict here. I'm a real fan of auctions, but having said that, I think that you really shouldn't go down the path of saying, I want to auction my property. I think it is a mechanism to sell your property that really should be guided by your agent. So the agent will understand the market and will then prescribe a mechanism for the sale of that property within the market. And it may be that the auction is the appropriate course of action, but then again, the agent will guide you in that process and determine whether or not that is the best mechanism to achieve the best price for your property.
Okay, so what's meant by reserve and how is that set?
It's the minimum number that the vendor is prepared to sell that property for. Okay, and typically it's not known until the end of the marketing campaign, which typically again could be the day of the auction. The vendor would take advice from the agent, who's been obviously showing the property to a variety of people who are typically again present at the auction, and would advise the vendor on what the likely outcome would be. And with all of that information and guidance from the agent, the vendor will set the reserve and give it to the auctioneer.
Now, if you were going to an auction to buy a property that you'd found and you liked, what kind of pre-work should you do before you get there?
I guess one of the reasons I like auctions, they're very final. It happens on the day, so we know the result. But what you do need to do, I guess, going along to an auction is be prepared to buy. Now, there's a whole series of things you need to be doing to be prepared to buy, and that is being dead certain that this is the property that you want. So you've done all your inspections, pest and building and the like, and strata inspections if you're dealing with a strata property. All of those sorts of things need to be done, and you need to be satisfied that if you are the successful for the bidder, that you want to buy that property. The other thing you need to have is your finance. It needs to be organised, because you will be asked to sign a cheque on the spot for 10% normally. And exchange contracts then and there, and the property will effectively be exchanged to you on the day.
And what about your pest and building inspections?
Well, again, they need to be done beforehand if you are minded to do that sort of due diligence, and I'd certainly always encourage everybody to satisfy themselves about exactly what issues are attaching to this particular property, so you're making an informed decision. But all of that sort of due diligence work, as it's termed, needs to be done prior to the auction, so that when you walk through that door with your in the capacity to be able to bid and to satisfy that 10% deposit on exchange, that you're in a position to do that.
Okay, so auction day arrives,
Yep.
You go along excited, you found the property that you want. What are your best tips for how to behave on the day?
Yeah, you'll often see this now. You see people with a whole series of tactics. Everybody's father-in-law will explain to them how they should go about auctioning. The reality of it is go along and participate in it. Don't hang back. Don't wait for the last fall of the hammer. Understand what you're prepared to bid. Participate in the auction. But so you'll always see everybody standing back and waiting. I don't think there is anything such as a tactic. I think you need to go along and you need to understand what you're prepared to pay for it. You would have already done all of your work, so you would understand where the property is going to go. And what will happen there, the auctioneer will certainly guide you up to a starting figure where the competition can begin. One of the reasons I like auctions, though, is that it's all very transparent. You have a position here where all of the interested purchasers are in the room, and you get a final result and you get it on the day.
I guess one of the things that people really need to be aware of, though, when they go to auctions is that they can become emotional, and that old competitiveness can kick in a little bit. So they probably should leave the emotions at home, set themselves a firm price and be determined to stick to that.
I think that's very good advice. I don't know, I've got a lot to add to that. I think when you're buying an asset of this size, you need to go into it with a plan, and you need to leave all the emotions at the door and treat it as a business transaction. Because if we talked about people buying a home and they're going to commit themselves to 20 or 30 years of mortgage payments, there's no place for emotions in that. You need to understand what you can afford and go through that process. But again, you're dealing with your advisors, your solicitors, your conveyancers, and your real estate agents who are going to guide you through what we've discussed previously as a very, very emotional time, and one that you need to have the right advisors around you.
What can you tell me about dummy bidding?
it's illegal, and thankfully there is very, very little of it in New South Wales. There is, I guess, the odd instance now and again, and we wish it wasn't there, but like all industries, like all professions and callings and trades, there will always be some people who will do the wrong thing, and sadly there is a very, very small amount of people, I suppose, that get involved in a variety of practices that we wish that they didn't, but there's occasionally you will see that.
So what happens if a property is passed in at auction, so it doesn't sell?
If a property is passed in, the underbidder is normally given an opportunity. And I should point out they have no legal right to this, but they are normally given an opportunity to go and discuss with the vendor's agent, how far where the reserve was set, and to see if there can't be some sort of negotiation between that purchaser and the vendor and the vendor's agent. So that's normally the case, but I should point out there is no legal obligation to discuss it. Once the auction's over, it's over.
So Tim, are auctions right for everyone?
No, auctions certainly aren't right for everyone, and this is where I think you need to be guided by your agent. The agent will understand the market, and the objective of this is to go and market the property and achieve the best price we can. Now, in some instances, having that transparent competition in the room in an auction is the best way. Other times, depending on the property that's been taken to market, the agent may say to you that private treaty negotiations would be a better way to go.